Welcome to the Substitute for War video blog, if you call it. This is the first one. I got a little bit sick of writing, so I thought I'd try making a video like this and seeing how it goes, seeing if people like it. I'll be putting up some more videos later. I have some draft analysis coming up, but for today I'm going to be talking about tanking in the NBA, which was a very big subject this year, because I can't remember a year where teams more egregiously tanked to get high draft picks. Many of them basically weren't even hiding it. It got pretty comical at times. And the biggest problem of tanking is that some of the biggest fans are now cheering for losses because that's what's best for the team, getting high draft pick instead of a meaningless win. And this is obviously a problem. I would hope fans have the perspective of you play to win the game, but when the reward of losing is so high, you can't really blame them. My change for tanking is, well, first of all, a lot of people have solutions that are a bit extreme, such as a tournament at the end of the year or ranking teams according to how well they play after they get eliminated. And the most popular one, of course, is that just giving all 14 teams the same chance in the lottery. But the problem with this one is that it doesn't help the worst teams in the league as much as it should, which is kind of the point of giving high draft picks, because they need the most help. My change is related to the odds, and simply changing the odds to a less extreme amount. And I'll use the example of the second worst team in the league any given year. This year's Washington Wizards. Right now, Washington has a 19.9% chance of picking first overall, an 18.8% chance of picking second, a 17.1% chance of picking third, a 31.9% chance of picking fourth, a 12.3% chance of picking fifth, and the total odds are 100% chance of picking top 5, 87.7% chance of picking top 4, 55.8% chance of picking top 3, and a 38.7% chance of picking top 2. And my change is quite simple. What I would do is that, say, instead of 87.7% chance of picking top 4, let's say they only had a 45% chance of picking top 4. And instead of a 55.8% chance of picking top 3, they only had about 30% chance of picking top 3. And likewise, instead of a 0% chance of picking 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, for example, they would have a smaller increment chance of picking there. Even if it's unlikely, there would still be a chance that they fall. And the chance of them falling to 10 would be about the same as the 10th worst team in the league jumping up to second overall in the lottery, as is now. And basically my reason for doing this would be that it dilutes the reward of finishing with a low record, because essentially they only have half the guarantee of picking as high as they do now. And an analogy I'd use is, let's say I came up to you and I offered you, I said, how much will it cost for you to walk 100 miles in the next couple of days? And you said, give me $1,000 and I'll do it. But then I told you, well, what if I give you $400? Now, obviously, you'd be a lot more hesitant, because when you said 1,000, that's how much you wanted. But 400 is a lot less, and now all of a sudden that's kind of a waste of time, a waste of energy for a much smaller reward. And likewise, in a system like this, if the reward of tanking is really diluted in half, then teams don't have as much of an incentive to lose. At the same time, this system still makes it so the worst teams in the league do get a benefit, specifically of the top picks. Pragmatically, the way the NBA could do this is that, well, in the system now, the top 3 picks are selected by ping pong balls, lotto generated, and then 4 through 14 are just ranked worst to best in terms of the teams that didn't get the ball selected. But in my system, I would just make every pick lotto generated, and the NBA could map out the exact percentage each team has at each pick. Basically, you get the best math algorithm guys you can, and you go through all the combinations and you write it all down. And basically, you can make it so every pick is selected by ping pong ball, and therefore you could, and therefore each team would have a specific odd with each ball in each combination. And I think the beauty of this is that the NBA could really select exactly the odds they wanted, like literally exactly the odds they want. And so therefore, if they only wanted to make it a little more beneficial to the teams they're not taking, they could. If they wanted to make a lot more beneficial, they could. They basically, the degree that they would change the system would be completely up to them, which I think is a pretty good thing. All right. So that's my first tanking idea. My second tanking idea is one that I've heard a couple around. It's fairly popular, but it has some issues, but I think it's pretty decent. Basically, how it would work is that they'd have the season, and then after the season ends, they would either flip a coin or they'd just do a random draw where, let's say if it was 50-50, let's say there was a 50% chance that the lotto order is as of right now, where the worst teams get the best picks, and there'd be a 50% chance where it's reversed, where the best teams that not make the playoffs get the highest picks. And basically, because teams wouldn't know which order the picks are going to go, if they tanked, it could hurt them as much as it could help them if the order ends up being reversed. And also, it could be even like a 1/3 chance as is, 1/3 chance reversed, 1/3 chance that all 14 teams have the same chance in the lotto. But the problem with this is that it doesn't help the worst teams in the league enough. So maybe the solution would be there's a 75% chance that the order goes worst to best, and a 25% chance that it goes best to worst. But again, if this is true, then the problem is that teams just might tank because the odds with the order being worst to best. But yeah, so that's a decent one. The other problem with this is that if the best teams do not make the playoffs, they might feel like if they make the playoffs, they'll get swept. But if the best team do not make it, if the order ends up reversed, they could end up with really good draft picks. So the incentive might be with them to not make the playoffs, which is a problem. But personally, I think when teams get that close, they want to make it. So, alright. My third anti-taking idea is I haven't quite thought of the specifics of how they do it. I guess it'd just be lottery balls again and getting the math algorithm guys to figure it out and getting the combinations. But let's say they have the system now where everyone has some degree of a chance at a top 3 pick, or even just the first overall pick is just all lotto generated. And then after that, teams have like a 5-pick window from where they finish in the league. What I mean by that is that, for example, if you're the 7th worst team in the league, presuming you don't get like the top pick, you have the remaining chance is that you can pick 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9th, and you have identical chance of getting each of those picks. So it'd be essentially 20% chance at each of those picks. And basically the reason, and this would be true for all teams, but basically the reason I think this will kind of work is that if you move down a spot, like let's say you move from the 7th worst team to the 6th worst team, it really doesn't help you that much, because the difference it would make would be that instead of having a chance to pick 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you would have a chance to pick 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But the only way it helps you is in the small percentage chance that you move up to 4 instead of 5. And most of the picks that you have a chance at, you had a chance at when you were a spot higher as well. And it also helps the worst case scenario by moving up a pick. So although moving down helps a team, it's not as much as it is now, where now if you finish a spot worse in the league, you essentially are almost guaranteed to move up a spot than you would have before. So basically, again, it's just diluting the pick and making it so the reward of tanking isn't quite as high. One complication with this is what to do with the teams at, like, for example, the top of the league, like picks 1 and 2, because they obviously can't move up. What I would do is that they would only have a chance to move down instead of up. So essentially, the worst team in the league would have 20% chance at 1, and then 20% chance at 2, at 3, at 4, and at 5. And basically, the chances of moving down are higher than the other teams, but this is a good thing because it prevents tanking, I guess, and makes it so the worst teams in the league, again, don't have a huge advantage at number 1. And I think for the system to work, a lot of the teams need a high chance at picking number one, so that allows it. And likewise at the bottom, if you're the 14th team, you have an 80% chance of moving up. You can move up 4 spots, or you can stay where you are, 20% chance. So, yeah, I think that system would be pretty decent. The most complicated thing I think would be whether all teams have a chance at top 3 or top 1, and then whether the window of 5 picks, for example, would be after if they don't win the lotto. And if that's true, then they could still be tanking because teams might feel they have a high chance at picking, they want a higher chance at picking top 3, but that's something they would have to figure out. I'm sure could be a decent way. Personally, I wouldn't mind it if everyone had a fairly equal chance at number 1, and then the rest comes down to your order and the window I just explained, but yeah, it could be decided on. Also, the big problem, obviously, again, going back to the specifics of how this would work pragmatically, it's hard to just say a team moves up 2, because then you have to look at what the other teams are doing. For example, if everyone drew moving up, then obviously nobody can move up, right? So basically, it'd have to be a really complicated system, and you'd basically, like I said, the math algorithm guys would have to be working overtime, so the percentages all work out perfectly for the lotto balls. And what would happen is that when they draw the lotto balls, a team wouldn't be drawing like a moving up lotto ball. They would just have a 20% chance of picking each of those 5 picks within the window, just based on the odds the NBA came up with, and exactly the amount of balls each team has to have to make this happen. Alright, thanks for listening to this video blog, and I'll try to get some more up. Like I said, I have some draft stuff coming up, but visit asubstituteforwar.com if you're watching this on YouTube and haven't seen the site. We write columns every once in a while, mostly fun stuff, and thanks for listening.